So pleased to be here at day one. I've been building networks for about 19 years, back when I first taught myself how to use a computer. And you can see, you can see a repeat of that slide. And this fellow here is painting networks. And when I got the invitation from Denis to come to day one, I noticed that they were using the same, or not the same, but similar theories and methodologies around just network systems. And I believe the whole universe is made of these systems and networks. It's a network of networks. My story starts back with my mom, who was a single-parent mom, only child, left an abusive relationship with 25 cents in her pocket, and put herself through her family's first college degree. And she was my original superhero. After I graduated university, I moved to Los Angeles, and I was going to be inspired every single day. I was moving to the epicenter of creative genius. And guess what? 2 years in, I'm at this Hollywood Hills party. I'm looking around the room, and everyone looks almost identical. Everyone's in black. They look good looking. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, I don't belong here. Who am I? And I walked outside and I leaned against this railing overlooking the city, and I said, where are they? And this voice next to me said, who? And I was like, whoa, where did you come from? And he was a composer from Czechoslovakia teaching deaf kids how to read and play music. And it just kind of stopped me in my tracks. I was like, what are the mechanics behind that? Is it purely for the enjoyment of others, or can they feel the vibrations? Like, what are the physics? And they had a lot of questions. And the very next day, I met this scientist from Helsinki on this team to piece the ozone layer back together, patching the hole in the sky. And I had a question for him. I'm like, is it working? Like, that's amazing. You're like a real-life superhero. And every day for the next couple weeks, I would just meet these incredible people, one after another, and they were educators, and they were scientists, and all walks of life. And I just realized that I'd asked the universe where these people are that are going to inspire me, and then they started showing up out of the shadows. And I started thinking about it, and it's like, they're everywhere. They're in our families, our communities, they're inside of us. And so at that time, this was pre-Facebook and MySpace. There was not really a place to go online and find inspirational stories. And so I thought to myself how lonely it is trying to push that boulder up the mountain of borderline impossible. If you only knew that someone was next to you trying to accomplish the impossible too, there could be a support mechanism there, a thread between these real-life superheroes. And you could also use that as a platform to turn around and show this next generation that there's more than just athletes and entertainers that are real-life superheroes. They're everywhere. They're inside of us. And so I set out to create this organization in 1999 based on the premise of real-life superheroes, doctors, scientists, educators, to unleash that inner superpower. Every single one of us inside here has a real-life superpower. And when you start to articulate what that is, you start to manifest that. So we created this online supernator where you'd go online and create these characters upload your own face. We were inventing some technology at that time. We invented the face uploader cropper, if you can believe that. And right here in the middle here is my nemesis, because you play your good and your evil. Only you can defeat you, just like real life. This nemesis was like a media assassin, kind of like our president currently. So my real life power is like power of the dream. If I could stay focused, I can accomplish anything. I can manifest dreams into reality. But this guy had my Achilles heel. He was full of distraction. So we would travel to these events and supernate these kids, and they would stand up taller, and we all of a sudden we just realized like this was having like a really interesting effect. It was unforeseen. And the idea of the methodology that we used was the overlap between what the world needs most, what you're absolutely passionate about, and what you're uniquely gifted at. In that center there is your real-life superpower. Later, someone told me that this is an ancient theory from Japan called the Ikigai, and it's basically those three plus what you can get paid for. It's your reason for being. And so the incentive to be able to build these heroes for these kids was to tap into their hero and get into a real-life trading card deck. And to do that, you would gather a team. As Denis said yesterday, you can't be brave alone. You have to gather other heroes whose strengths align with your weaknesses. You go online, find other heroes, and you play these games to gather these points. It was a digital currency called knowledge nuggets, rising up this karma counter. But once we knew that we had them hooked with the prizes, you'd get a prompt that says, how do you save the world? Start with where you are. And you type in your zip code and you give 10 things you can do right in your own neighborhood to impact your backyard. Start with where you are. And that means a lot of different things. So in 1 year, you type in your zip code, you go donate a Saturday, and you get 100,000 knowledge nuggets. And so in 1 year, we had 10.5 billion knowledge nuggets. In 2000, 2001, for kids going out and walking dogs through the Humane Society and park reclamations. And at that point, I was feeling pretty happy. We're starting to get letters from teachers and child psychologists like, thank you, you've helped my young one like blossom. They're standing up. They know that they have superpowers now. None of this stuff we really foresaw happening. And then Fox made an acquisition offer, and I voted against the acquisition, but I no longer had 51% of the company, so we were sold. And I was very sad. I went back to Montana, where I'm from, and for about 3 or 4 months, I was pretty depressed. Everyone else was really happy that we were acquired. But then I had this realization that purpose can't be purchased. And that was the beginning of this next chapter of Hatch. Hatch is still the mission of gathering real-life superheroes. Very diverse CEOs, Oscar-winning filmmakers, Grammy-winning musicians, all these different individuals. We got the inventor of Siri, we have an astronaut, we have a couple actors, and then, of course, you can't solve real challenges without the next generation. So 20% of our curation every year is this next generation. The idea blossomed a few years after that. But the 3rd year, a plane was taking off as we were saying goodbye to everyone, and I was thinking to myself, the people on that plane can literally help save this planet. We're not making best use of their time yet. So we started building in do labs, like think tanks, but these do tanks into the 2 summits that we have a year. And here you can see kind of an ecosystem, what Hatch is. One in Montana, invite only for 100 people, and one in the south of France that happened in Aix-en-Provence last year at the camp. And as you can see, these think tanks are built around real action and real projects to address critical global issues. Challenges like education, the environment, human rights, hunger and food. I'll show you a little video. But the key is the curation, the cross-pollination of diversity. Diverse disciplines, industries, minds, generations, perspectives. But it all starts with bringing people together. It's very human. The technology just serves the human component to it. I'll cut that a little short. So the question is, how do you save the world? We bring it back to human. And we start with where we are, not only just in our backyards, but inside of ourselves. So within Hatch, there's some self-development components to it, but as we start to evolve past ourselves, we can realize there's a transformation into our community, and we can mentor communities within the world, the network within the networks, because the human potential is exponential. And we really believe that. So we spent 1,000 hours putting together 100 people in the room to impact the lives of 100 million. the idea that 1 + 1 = 11. And it's kind of funny math, but it's not when you're talking about very specific kinds of skill sets. So I found this really interesting. Buckminster Fuller, who was an architect and philosopher, and he said, technology can save the world from itself provided that it's properly used. And when do you think he said that? 1928. Well, 60 years later, he said, we will not be able to operate our spaceship Earth for much longer unless we see it as a whole spaceship and recognize that we all share a common fate. We're all sharing a living room. And so that's still not happening in some parts of our country. Some parts of our world are not recognizing that what happens over here is impacting those over here. So the reason why I brought Buckminster Fuller up was a couple years ago, his protege, a fellow named David McConville, who runs the Buckminster Fuller Institute, he moved from the East Coast down to the Bay Area, and I flew down and had a beer with him and asked him why. And I said, David, like, you loved your old home, like, why did you move? He flips over this napkin, and he writes these 5 lines, and he says, if this, and this isn't reversed in the next 18 to 19 years, we've passed the point of no return. I'm like, did you say 80 to 90, or 18? He's like, 18. I was like, whoa. So on the plane ride home, I quit everything else I was doing to focus on Hatch and also to think about how I could help accelerate other communities and networks. I realized that there was nothing really else worth doing than just trying to support those who are on the front lines of working on global challenges. And so we built this AI program, and it's a matchmaking algorithm, essentially. We built it originally for Hatch in mind, but now we're starting to talk to universities and nonprofits all around the world. And if you're interested in hearing more about it, you can come talk to me, but I'll give you just a little quick peek. We're in a stealth beta right now to build out this network of networks. And imagine if you're looking for someone very specific. If you're looking for a climate scientist or someone who programs Java and PHP, but they're passionate about human rights or the environment. And you can use a search engine to go find these people, and you can get really granular with that search. You can think about, well, who's also passionate about astrophysiology, or who is a friend of mine of Denis. You can start to get really granular and start to visualize your network and put that network to use. And so we're now in conversations with multiple organizations and universities to build out this network, because if you can't find that person within your own network, you can search one bubble larger, and there's smarter context. You own your own data, which has been a really big topic here. We use a data clearinghouse. We don't house the data. If you pull the plug on it, you take all your data with you. It's the way of the future, really empowering people to be in control of their own data. It's their own DNA. So connecting needs and solutions, projects and resources, and companies with talent and skills. And they dropped a little bit of time off, so I'm kind of going to cruise through these real quick. But there's an ask offer, a resource matchmaking algorithm. And Alchemy is imagine like when you're on one of the bigger platforms right now, they say, hey, you should know so-and-so, and you look at the reason why. It's because you went to high school with them, or it's like something that doesn't really have any context for your current life. And this is a way to matchmake people based on real projects and real passions. There's also some really interesting, you can curate your own news feeds and subscribe to topics around those. You can search through industry, collaboration, resources, cause, location, and the mapping function is really cool. When I travel, like to Paris or Barcelona, I'm always dropping pins in really cool places to go eat and kind of underground speakeasies. And then when I have a friend that's going to go visit, I'll send them that map. And so we use that methodology here as well. And there's also a really robust events feature in there where you can create startups. But ultimately, the goal is for us to be able to use this technology, license it out to other organizations so that they can understand and tap into the full potential within their own organization, but also utilize it to help solve problems. Every year at Hatch, there's 10 to 12 different labs that come out with real tangible projects, but they're all kind of within that cohort. And I've been envisioning for years like all these different cohorts being able to cross-pollinate, because that's where it will start to accelerate. And right now, we need to accelerate solutions for these challenges. So number one, the human potential is exponential. And 2, I want to leave you with this. Unleash your inner superhero. Ask yourself the question, what makes you uniquely gifted? And also think about what are your weaknesses? if you keep a sense of humor about them, they don't own you, right? You can navigate them on a daily basis. And 3, start with where you are. Start in here, start in your backyard, start in your family, start when you go home, because, as you all know, tomorrow starts today. Thank you for having me.